So it is tier list time for Mortal Kombat 1 after the Conan update where multiple characters got pretty good buffs and some top tiers. I'm looking at you, Reiko, got some changes that really changed how MK1 is played in terms of the meta game. Now I actually think the meta is in a great spot at the moment. It's definitely not perfect, and if you play one of the weaker characters, you're probably very unhappy because at this point over half the roster is pretty viable at the competitive level, which was unheard of for the first 12 months of this game's lifespan. So while yes, there are going to be people who are getting screwed over with their main of choice, I think as a whole this game will actually shape up to have a better meta than MK11 did. We've hit the point where in the top 100 of the ranked leaderboards there is at least one player for every character on the roster, so you can win with anybody. Now the ease of winning changes depending on your skill level and the skill level of opponents, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to try and keep this at a competitive highest level of play mindset, but that's why I have weird right there. I'll drop down characters when I'm talking about them into weird if I think there's anything special to note, whether they perform better at the lower high ranks or if I think they'll never get a buff or nerf because of how the character is played at different ranks. All right, I'm actually starting with Kung Lao because I've seen the light. This man is at the very top of A tier. He is really good at the online tournament level. He's really oppressive in online ranked play, with the caveat being it is kind of Sektor that makes his kit super strong. And now I know some people have a problem when you give a character a high tier placement that really relies on one specific cameo, but this is an assist based game after all, and at a competitive pro level you're going to choose the strongest cameo, so it makes sense to talk about the top team when tier listing anyways. Yeah, this character is just oppressive at all times, and the main thing you need to learn if you're gonna play Kung Lao is balancing how often you use your Sektor utility, but the best Kung Laos pretty much always have Sektor utility online, whether it's throw combos, whether he's getting stuff off his sweep, whether he's getting stuff off the 2-hit mid, which I used to complain about and call him bad for. If people had figured out the Sektor cameo meta with him when he still had safe armored launches, it would have been game over. He would have been a top 5 character, but thankfully people really got in tune with that team after he had already lost those, so I'll take it, you know. I'm okay. Next up, I'm gonna throw Reptile into A. Now he'll probably drop down towards the middle section over time in this tier list, but he is the jack of all trades character. I've said that pretty much every single tier list, and with his buffs and then how cameos have evolved over the game's life cycle, I think he plays the game better and better over time. Now his biggest weakness, why he'll never be S tier, is he's not overly good at one thing that becomes overpowered or cheap, but on the flip side, because of that, he actually can take those opportunities where he gets either big damage or gets you in a setup you weren't expecting, and then once he has the life lead, because he's jack of all trades, he can kind of start playing lame and it's hard to come back against him. I think he's really solid still. You know, you can't go wrong picking Reptile Mavado, Reptile Janet, Reptile Scorpion, etc. Next, I'm throwing Li Mei in A, but she would be below Reptile, and that's because in her matchups where she can play her game, she's feels like one of the strongest characters in the game. I know she isn't, but she feels that way. Her big weakness will always be her bad matchups where she gets outspaced are a little bit rough for her, and then she has gaps. So if you know how to deal with the gaps, she drops down, but again, I think she's solid for online play. I'd throw her in A. Big damage, some of the highest practical damage in the game, has stuff like the instanter, overhead and lows, has a base kit, decent projectile, has decent armor, and has a 6-frame reversal, which means she punishes things that other characters can't. One I think about is Ghostface has a move that's -7, but it's a -7 move where he's in a like low down state, like he's low to the ground, so somebody like Liu can't actually punish with his 6-frame high, which is the fastest jab, but Li Mei's 6-frame flip kick can, which gives her some interesting tech in matchups that many players aren't ready for. She'd be towards the bottom of my A tier. She's really fun to play. She's still probably in my top 10 of characters that I enjoy playing. She just doesn't have some of the dirt I think other cast members do. Also, she's a nightmare for more casual players or lower ranked players because, yeah, if you don't know about the gaps, you're eating crazy plus frames in what feels like endless pressure. So I know there's some casuals in my audience that despise her, but trust, once you get slightly better at the game or really lab against her, you realize she does have answers. All right, now I'm throwing Liu Kang, and I'm putting him in between Lao and Reptile. I think both Lao and Liu Kang will be towards the top of my A tier. He's kind of the same character he's always been, has some of the best strike throw in the game, has a 6-frame jab, can zone if he needs to. He plays well pretty much everywhere, and his air projectiles really stopped the jumping meta we were in for quite a while. His main crime is he's kind of boring to play, in my opinion. You know, Lu Streets really showed me the light of why he's more boring than like MK11 or MKX Liu Kang was, but he's still strong. I just think at this point, if you were a Liu Kang main day one, you've probably swapped to another character with equal skill or power level just because it's more fun in a way, you know? And Liu's staggers still hit people to this day. He has some of the best staggers in the game, in my opinion, and I know Ketchup from Ketchup and Mustard's channel agree. All right, next we have Shao, and I'm putting Shao right here. I'm actually going to put him behind Liu, even though online tournaments would not lead you to believe that's how it should be ordered. You'd think Shao would be at the very top of A, if not S, if online tournaments and people just using this character at a competitive level was what mattered. I mean, even in Sekander's 2v2, him and Sost played Shao and beat quite a good player. I'm already forgetting the player's name. I'm so sorry. But also, there's tons of Shao players you see just popping up all over the place in top 8s. I just think it is the thing that Liu isn't as fun. Shao's whole concept is steamrolling. On top of that, he has a great health pool to take those steamroll risks that you have to do. Shao really thrives on mashing on opponents, so there are characters, like if we looked at Cyrax right here, he kind of gets to shit stomp Cyrax because her big weakness is getting mashed on. So yeah, there's just some funny things going on with Shao. Despite all that, I'm still putting him below Liu because when it comes down to it, at the highest level of play, if we go to Evo, not having a great mid is really going to be a problem. It's why Johnny Cage dominated every offline in year one, even when he wasn't being put even in the top 5. People were putting him at 6 and things like that, and he got mirror matched in grand finals of Evo, and that's because offline characters tend to need fast or reliable mids. Okay, next up is Smoke. And now Smoke, I'm going to put here probably below Li Mei. I think Smoke is an A tier character. He's at the bottom of A. He has his weaknesses, but his weaknesses are only present for pro play. I think for any level of online ranked play, this character is easily A. The 100 ping smokes that actually make the overhead and low feel like a true mix that he's now getting off air cancels is crazy. And it becomes a 50-50 reset the higher the ping, and it feels real. The cancels feel real. I can't put him any lower than bottom of A, even though I know he has his gaps. I know his overhead is probably too slow for the current meta. I believe NetherRealm should just lean into it and give him a faster overhead at this point, and I think maybe take out some of his gaps or make his armor more reliable, which would make him better for competitive play. But to power rebalance him, we need to do something about how his cancels feel on high ping or how his invisibility feels. Like, you could tell I don't want this character to be bad. I want him to be good. I just want him to be good in a way that means I'll see him at Evo. And at the moment, I don't think we will in his current state. I just think online he's a beast though. So what do? You need to power rebalance. I want to see pros use this character, not just sweaty Wi-Fi players online that have, you know, monster energy running through their goddamn veins and ruining people's day. Okay, so he's going at bottom of A for me. NetherRealm, please give this character some things and power rebalance him. Speaking of power rebalance that I wish to see, Kenshi is going in S tier. Ghost is the dumbest ability in the game. It's either cheese or get cheesed. It's just not a fun character design at the highest level. Now it looks cool, and you would think a puppet character would be really fun, but at the highest level of play and pro play, it just becomes, okay, I either counter pick Kenshi if it's offline and, you know, you know your opponent's pick. You counterpick Kenshi and he plays the worst game of his life. It's so boring. Or you don't counterpick him and you play the most boring, you know, one-sided game of your life. For online play, it's crazy that we have a roulette character where, again, he's either having a great time because it's blind picks and you can't change your main in Combat League, and he comes in and rolls you because you have no tools to space him out or keep him at range while doing effective damage. Or the opposite happens. He loads into the game and he gets absolutely stomped just trying to chase the opponent down the screen the entire game. Like, there is no winning when it comes to the fun of this character at the highest level. Now, I'm sure at the lower levels, it's okay, and he's like really cool in terms of looking at his abilities, and it's just cool to use Sento in general. But for the highest level of play, it becomes running away simulator or block simulator. Being complicated doesn't mean a character should have all the tools in the book. We've seen this so many times because good players are just going to master it, like Fujin came up late in MK11 and destroyed the rest of the roster. So every tournament, we had to see Fujin versus Fujin because, again, character considered complicated, then everybody figures him out and you see the most stale gameplay ever. He needs a power rebalance. I want to keep him strong, but make Ghost less oppressive. Don't let him recharge it for a bar for free. Something like that. He's so boring. Easily the dumbest matchups in the game happen when Kenshi is involved. Speaking of top tiers, we'll just get Havoc out of the way. He's top 1 in the game. Oh, there's my cat. You know, some people have been wanting to see Ghost. I usually don't wake him up because he'll jump on things, but here he is. Oh, he's grabbing the mic. He wants to lay on my lap, so. But yeah, I mean, do I really need to talk about why Havoc's top 1? He has too much health for his current iteration. He has TODs, essentially, or near TODs, especially depending on what your meter situation is like. Oh, my cat is bumping my monitor. He gets incredible damage off everything. He has plus frames that don't make sense anymore in his kit. You know, he could play anywhere on the screen. He has mix-ups, some of which take risk, but at the same time, again, it just doesn't matter when he has so much armor, so much utility. Everybody knows he's top 1. Nobody argues this point anymore, which is kind of weird because you also don't see people complaining about Havoc. It gets way less complaints than somebody like Kenshi or even Scorpion at this point. And I think that's because people still haven't picked up the character. I think a lot of people thought he would be nerfed a bit by now, and he just hasn't been. I know people that have been like, oh, he's going to get nerfed next patch, so I'm not going to waste my time. And he stays the same. So maybe this is the patch he finally gets some tuning. Rain, I don't have much to say. I mean, it felt like early on when characters were starting to get changes that improved the way the game is played, because it's a lot more fun now. I thought he would turn out to be better. His main crime is kind of being boring, and then he doesn't match up well into popular characters. It's hard for your character to be any better than bottom of A when one of the worst matchups in the game for Rain is against a poster boy of the series, Scorpion. So he ends up running into his bad matchup all the time in Combat League. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about Rain. He hasn't changed much in the last few patches. New cameo changes haven't really affected him. So yeah, it doesn't matter how good he is against certain matchups or how good he can be, he's going to have to run into an unfair matchup all the time. So he's down here at the bottom of A. Tanya's going in C. I don't know why her mid is still this slow. I feel like Tanya needs a healthy balance, or if we're not going to give her back her original strength, aside from safe armored launches, I'm talking she had the best auto shimmy in the game, then make her drill kick a low something. I mean, I think Tanya is the #1 least played character in the game. She's not very good. All you need to do is let her waste her meter or cameo resource and you win. There's not much to say. I think the 3 shadow nerfs to her were just too much, and I can't believe they didn't say anything. Like, that's the biggest part. I mean, Kung Lao is a great example that wouldn't have ruined Tanya. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Tanya was in the top 5-ish for so long, NetherRealm just decided to gut her. Now, next up is Noob Saibot, and he is going in top 5S, but I'm also wanting to talk about the weird part about him. I believe, from watching Sonic, this character demolishes. I mean, Sonic just posted that clip of the instant airs. I mean, it's insane. This character has everything, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sonic mains Noob throughout Pro Comp Season 2. He's undoubtedly a top 5 pick. The thing is, I feel like all my Combat League opponents would be like down here. People just don't have the execution to make him work like that. And it's different from Kenshi, where You don't need to be pro level to make Kenshi work. You just need to be a top 1% player. I feel, Noob Saibot, you need to literally be a top 50 player in the world to truly unlock the fact as to why he is truly like top 3, top 4 in the game. All that being said though, good players in ranked still make him work because he doesn't really play bad anywhere on screen. I am going to stand on this Ashrah hill till the end of time. I'm probably the only one that still puts her towards the top of A. I see a lot of people putting her middle A or low A. I think giving her the stance switches off her amplified moves is great, and I still think she has some of the better pressure and mind games in the game. She has decent neutral. She kind of forces you into learning how to play neutral, but I still think having the overhead and low base kit is nice. She gets a lot of cameo freedom. I think she can move really well around the map, has good damage, has good conversions without meter with cameos like chameleon / mix-ups on the first hit and second hit of her strings. So yeah, while I know some people will disagree inevitably, I think she's still one of the best all-around characters. Like, Ashrah is the character you could take away cameos from, and she might be top 2 or 3, which I think is really nice. Johnny Cage going in weird because I know no matter where he gets placed on a tier list, he'll do well at offlines for Pro Comp Season 2. No matter where he got placed year 1, he was always showing up in grand finals, and that is because for offline, a 9-frame mid that is safe is incredible. In MK11, we had multiple characters with 9-frame mids, and MKX 9-frame mids. In MK1, NRS decided to tone that down and just give it to one character, and that makes him very reliable for offline play. Plus, he's very easy to learn. He has a ton of different mechanics in his kit. Like, you can't go wrong picking Johnny. I'm going to put him at the bottom of S, but I'm mark it now, mark it down. He will win one of these offline majors in Pro Comp Season 2, even though, again, people will place him in A or place him at the bottom of S. He will turn out to be all reliable offline. I think a universal buff to all characters, though, that I love about Johnny is every character in the game should have a nerf to backwards movement, but get a buff to forward movement to equal Johnny's. I love his wave dashes. It's another reason he's so strong. Fujin, best forward movement in MK11. Johnny, best forward movement in MK1. And you can see why that equals power. I told you guys so many people telling me I overranked Homelander last tier list. Look at you all now. I told you for competitive online, offline tournament play, it does not matter that forward 4 is not a low. It did not matter. Any damage tuning did not matter, and everybody is tweeting about it now that this character is still dummy strong. I told you so. I'm not gonna say anything else. I told you that this character would still be good and he'd still be placing in first in tournaments all over the place and always making top 8s and getting overpicked in online tournaments because he's oppressive. His kit, having the low did not matter for competitive high-level play. Good players were blocking it frequently. It was everything that came afterwards that is still in the game that was oppressive. So yeah, I do believe it was the right change because it helps everybody in the middle ranks, you know, eat less dumb Homelander things. But it didn't change anything about competitive play. So yeah, he's still an S. I don't know exactly where he'll be yet, but everybody's tweeting about him in the last couple weeks that he's still super strong, and I told you so. All right, next up is Shang, and he's going in C as well, although he's better than Tanya. Shang is a disappointment to me because buffing him was the right thing to let him steal the cameo moves and all that, and his double hitting low is nice, but it just feels like they could have added a bit more that made him actually good, because the big problem with the cameo steal move is the way his combos work in his base kit. It just doesn't gel well at all with most of the cameos in the game. And so I don't know why we even added it. My cat is stretching right here in front of the screen. I don't know why we even added it without doing that quality of life change to how his B&B combos work. Because yeah, if he goes against Farah cameo, of course he's insane. He gets one of the craziest mix-ups with no cooldown in the entire game, but most cameos just don't gel with him well. Maybe this year we'll get the change that allows Shang to just synergize with all the cameos in the game really well with the cameo steal move. But until then, he'll just be underwhelming, at least to me. All right, you see, I just placed Quan Chi and Takeda in weird. And that is because I want to talk about why I don't think these two will ever get true buffs. And it's because they are nightmares depending on matchup or skill level. Takeda, I'm going to put at the bottom end of B tier. You're seeing a lot of people use him for Scorpion's kind of worst matchups, but overall, I don't think he's that great because he has the gaps, he has the flawless block / up block punishes, you know, his frame data isn't all that great, his armor is trash. The reason he'll never get buffed is because having that normal range and that damage is insane for casual players or mid-rank players. Like, this character feels strong as hell because casual players and mid-rank players aren't flawless blocking or understanding and labbing where the gaps lie to stop this character from basically just keeping you all the way outspaced. And so for the mid-rank players, half the roster is just an instant loss because you have no buttons that can contest him. Next up is Quan, and Quan will actually go in B as well, but below Takeda. Another nightmare for casual mid-rank players. I mean, he just builds meters so fast, and then, yeah, you lose instantly. Like, he probably has some of the fastest wins recorded in MK1 history because he gets the armor portal off, and regular players just don't know what to do against it. Hell, even I struggle against it, and I just don't like fighting against him because you have to play so much differently than everybody else. But at the end of the day, though, he has gaps. He doesn't have great pokes, so he can get kind of mashed on. His mix-ups don't lead to a lot. He still has wonky, you know, the stand 4. It still whiffs a lot. You kind of just wait to bait out his overhead teleport, and yeah, if you pick Serena and drain his meter, he's even more just out of luck. But that overhead teleport, when he gets the armor portal off against casuals, it's GG, game over. Like, they're hitting buttons and getting demolished by this character. So he is a weird one as well. He won't get buffs because, again, he stomps in the middle to low ranks. I bet NetherRealm is just content with the fact that he is a knowledge check character. Like, his whole design at this point, to me, is he is the knowledge check. If you don't know what you're doing against Quan, you will think this character is top 3 in the game. But once you do, his, you know, weaknesses are right there in front of you. Nitara, our glass cannon. I'm going to put her above Johnny, even though for offline play, Johnny for sure will be more picked. But for the online play that we're in right now, even though Pro Comp Season 2's first event is coming up this month, she's going here. She's a glass cannon. Not really a matchup check per se, but game by game, round by round goes so differently, and you must be patient. You can't anti-air this character. Doing up blocks is a death sentence. You know, you just need to be patient, and honestly, it's kind of about luck. There has been recent Road to Rank 1s where I get flawless the first round, then I flawless the second round, and then in game 2 of that Combat League set, the exact same thing happens. Because again, it's just truly a glass cannon. If she gets her opening, the round's almost over. I mean, she's a 2-touch round-ending character, but she doesn't have any health to play with, so as soon as you open her up and then just be patient after that, yeah, she's kind of out of luck. She doesn't have fast, really buttons to do anything. She doesn't have plus frames. Everything's super negative, and she really just wants to bait you into pressing so she can dive kick you when she's doing all her stuff in the air, flying and dashing around. Sektor goes in the bottom of S tier. Now, she is the best zoner in the game. Match that with incredible damage when she does get her hits, and has some of the best armor in the entire game. You really can't go wrong. Yeah, her overhead is slow, just like somebody like Smoke or Sub-Zero, but that's not really the point of picking this character. To me, you pick this character to get one free win in Combat League, or just counterpick your opponent in tournament. And then in some cases for Combat League, your opponent can swap cameo to deal with it, which is why Sektor is in the top of S, or for offline play, swap main character. And then if that's the case, Sektor already won game 1, maybe will lose game 2 because she gets counterpicked, and then the Sektor player can always swap after that for game 3. Sindel, not much to say. For competitive tournament level play, Lao or Tremor, take your pick. For online play, you can make Cyrax work because she gets the, you know, Vortex going, and the Vortex is honestly pretty hard to stop. But at the end of the day, you could pick either Lao or Tremor, and this character is amazing, oppressive, can play anywhere on screen really, really well. I mean, she has a preference with each cameo, but can play anywhere well. Her movement is good, whether it's in the air or on the ground. Still hits like a truck when she gets her touch. I mean, not much has changed. She is the one character that has been top 3 since the game's release. Now, Ermac, I do think is either top 5 or 6, but I love that. Ermac is how I wish Fujin was is in MK11. Like, you have a somewhat complicated character with really flashy combos, flashy movement, just flashy utility in general, creative, you know, special moves like his green aura. I mean, we have people doing the poke into the special move cancel like it's nothing now online, and then he's hitting you for 60% when he gets his touch. He gets armored combos, he gets everything, man. Like, he's so fun, and he's not super broken, but I do wonder if he'll get the Johnny Cage effect at offlines. Like, his game plan doesn't change all that much, and how good he is doesn't change all that much based on ping, which is a big reason Johnny is good, because the 9-frame mid is so reliable when ping is perfect at an offline. Peacemaker, why would you play this character? I mean, he works online, don't get me wrong. I've lost to a Peacemaker player when I was using Mileena just recently, and it made me slightly think about it for a second, like, am I wrong? But no, I'm... Poor Peacemaker. He has no identity. Out of every character on the roster, he is the one that I think has become pointless. Like, even Rain, I think, has things that make him unique versus other setup characters like Kitana or Cyrax or anything like that. Peacemaker is just like, if you want counter zoning, there are better counter zoners. If you want zoners, there are better zoners that can fly around and stuff like that. Like, all your, what are you doing? Like, putting on force field, which is super slow startup now, and mind gaming the overhead teleport or canceling it and trying to bait out up blocks? Like, is that his whole thing? Because half the time now, you just waste eagerly. I'm done talking about him. He's just not very good. Baraka. I'm putting Baraka right here. Baraka Kano, oppressive. I personally think Baraka Kano is like the last really remaining character that plays like year 1 of MK1, which to me is kind of boring and kind of annoying. And on top of that, he destroys people in the low tier and casual ranks, because back 3 is basically a guarantee that the second hit low will hit if you've conditioned enough overhead launches. He has built-in overhead lows. He has a built-in projectile. He keeps every special move on block safe with Kano knives, even though there is slight counterplay to it. He has 3 different moves that are plus in his kit. His stand 2 goes far. His stand 4/4 breaks armor on like every character in the game. Like, he's very solid. I just think he's kind of boring and honestly frustrating to go against. You see people losing to this character all the time in tournament. Now, Geras, I'm putting him in weird to start because he has one weakness to me, and that is he can't enforce his pokes at all. Otherwise, I think he would be like top 7. I still think he's at the bottom of S, and he's pretty good, but the one thing holding him back is he can't enforce his game plan of command grab or mid or anything like that, due to the fact that even if you land a poke as Geras, you can still get mashed on by most of the roster, which is a pain. There's tons of videos out there explaining why he gets mashed on, so he really needs something to stop that. Like, Johnny Cage can down 1, get it blocked, and then still mash on Geras before he can, you know, do something about it. Or Geras can land a down 1, and Johnny Cage can still get out of it. Like, Geras can't jail you into anything good. So that's all he needs tuned at this point, and he would be very, very strong. But until then, I still think he's great, and I think making those on-the-fly mashes against Geras is harder than I'm making it sound. Omni-Man, top of B. And I think this is the first time I'm dropping him to B. The thing is now, beforehand, I felt like he was held together by the fact that he just had a consistent game plan, and then also could pick a cameo like Jax and just start cheesing you. But at this point in the game's life cycle, there are so many characters with busted OP tools that work almost every single time you try and set them up. So why would you pick Omni? You're just working a bit too hard, and we've all slowly gotten better at dealing with OP Jax ground pound strats or Kano knives from off-screen strats. Mileena, I think, is a better online character than offline, but she's going right here in the middle of A. You're not going to see her at offlines doing well because she struggles at the one thing that's important, and that is she just gets zoned out. If she's going to choose an optimal cameo, she really just gets outspaced, has to spend meter to get full screen projectiles. On top of that, pro level players can flawless block the 1-2 string, which means she gets full combo punished. And her mix-ups, like the second hit built-in normals mix-up, it's not a mix-up, but overhead and low, those are super reactable with their best cameos because the Sonya overhead just doesn't really start up that fast, or Scorpion overhead. So you need something like Mileena cameo ball roll, but you can't chain a Mileena cameo ball roll with a regular Mileena ball roll, so yeah, it gets weird. She doesn't really have good armor at all. You can't really combo off of her armor. Her forward 1-4 dial-in string starts up a little slow and again gets spaced out. So she's really left with her forward 4 overhead and her sweep game. And yeah, I mean, she's just an online machine, but bad for offline play, in my opinion. Still incredibly fun to play though, because she gets such high practical damage. So for online, I'd probably put her near Shao, but it just pains me to think that like Shao is a better offline pick and Reptile and Baraka than Mileena is. She just gets stomped when you can see everything with perfect reaction time, which sucks. You're just relying on the forward 4 or back 4, and even those aren't that fast. Cyrax. Now, I don't know where to put this character. I might just leave Cyrax in weird. Cyrax is the character that gets placed in random spots the most out of everyone's tier list, and I'd like to agree, because she gets mashed on, which is so matchup dependent, and then, yeah, like, if she gets her game plan going, it's really good. I'm just leaving her in weird. I don't think the nerf really affected her, where her and Kitana, they can't do their throw to break armor with a trap setup. That doesn't matter for Cyrax, because whether you tech the throw, get hit by the throw, or get mixed, you get launched regardless, even if you do the right thing. Still probably one of the craziest steamroll factors in the entire game though. Like, it is terrifying when all those bombs are on screen and you know that you should be blocking the overhead or low, but then also that she could throw you, and even if you luckily tech that throw, you're getting launched, or if you duck that throw, you're getting launched, but if you get thrown, you're getting launched. Like, there's no right answer, so it is just funny. Love Cyrax because she's so weird. So I'm leaving her here because I just don't know. Nobody knows. I feel like if you run into a GOAT Cyrax, yeah, she can demolish you, but then also, if you just mash on her, sometimes you take easy wins. I don't know. Weird character. Ghostface finally got all his knife cancel stuff back. He's probably like right around here. Not much to say about him. He is the exact same character that I talked about last time. We'll see if he gets offline representation. You see people using him in online tournaments right now, and that's why I'm not putting him any higher or any lower, because how will the plus frames off knife cancels feel at offlines, or how will just all the pressure he generates, or how will his command grab versus normals mind game work at offlines? Like, we really don't know. The nice thing is he can keep himself safe and he just doesn't spend bar, so that way he can always amplify and get into other stances and then not take the hit because he switches back. And it's much harder than I thought to down to him reliably to take the guaranteed 14%. Sub-Zero, he's up here. He finally gets good B&B damage. You can either do the chameleon gameplay, which is tried and true, or you can go ahead and use Cyrax, which is the new wave. Really strong, gets conversions off of, you know, his regular slide into the jabs on the ground. Gets 14% armored hits without that though. Like, if he just does regular armor, gets good damage now with all the buffs over time, but he still needs a bit more. Like, his Ice Ball is pointless. Like, why have we not buffed Ice Ball? Even just a tiny bit? And he's kind of like Smoke, where I think his overhead is outdated and could be sped up a tiny bit if we wanted to bring him higher up into the meta, essentially. Also, I know people are going to say, no, we need a buff to his mid, make it like 12 frames, which is incredible. That would give him one of the best mids in the entire game. Personally, I want the overhead and Ice Ball buffs instead. You could give him all three. He would just instantly go up into top 5 if he did, and maybe NetherRealm will do that as a special treat here later on in 2025, but at the moment, I think normalizing both Smoke and Sub-Zero's overheads and then improving Sub-Zero's Ice Ball would be a great place to start, because that would bring him up towards here in the tier list, in my opinion. Scorpion, this man is going right around here. I always like to put him next to Nitara because I feel like they're each other's weakness in certain ways. Like, Nitara stops the back 3 and back 2s from landing. Against any other character, Scorpion gets to either back 3 and condition jumps and then back to anti-air deep jump ins, but against Nitara that all goes away, so leaving them next to each other. The reason I leave him here is for offline play. His back 3 is reactable to get jumped over and punished, especially now that they made it just guaranteed 2 hits, not 3 hits randomly depending on the distance. I'm leaving him here. Online, he's probably about here for me. at 5, especially with Pharah on Wi-Fi and on Wired with good ping, Jax. So that's why he's in the weird category for me, because right now, Scorpion Pharah online, top 5 team, but at offlines, like there's a reason Sonic says Scorpion Pharah isn't top 5, and that's because Sonic speaks in purely offline play. He becomes a character where his mids are a little bit slow and his fastest mid is a little bit stubby, where you just pick Johnny Cage and you have all reliable. So I'm gonna throw him at 5 actually for right now, because I want to lean towards online. He gets chunky damage, and the way that would make him certified top 5 for offline is if Jax could do what Janet can. And what I mean by that is that Janet can get both armored and throw combos with one cameo pick. Right now, you're having to choose between Jax for the armor combos or Pharah for the throw combos and the mix-ups. Reiko, this one's hard. So his nerf was now projectiles break his ninja stars, and meaning like if I can react to it in time, I can throw a scorpion spear right through it, whether the stars were amplified or not, and get a full combo punish. He would still be a good character, just not as good as he was. The thing is, why do it this late into the game's life cycle? I get it. It was a weird play style for a grappler. Like he had too good of normal pokes into either he had some of the best zoning in the game or some of the best strike throw in the game, plus frames, plus a launching overhead low mix because of the recent changes and buffs to his overhead. He's the only character with a mid command grab. He had everything. So I get it didn't make sense for the ninja stars to be that good, but it was too late at this point, or at the very least make the amplified version of the stars not get broken by other projectiles. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna stick him below Johnny Cage for the time being though, because again, I think he's a good grappler archetype. It just was it was mean to take it away at this point. I think it was too late for that. What I think is that NetherRealm had planned this air command grab move like a year ago, very early on, and built it. Realized that they had now given him multiple new buffs, like now he has the new launching kick property, and so he had so many new buffs at different patch points that they thought, oh shit, we've just completely broken this character, we got to take something away, and panicked. It could be done better. Kitana, yep, you're going up here. She's very strong. Kitana's new moves are crazy. She can combo off of her low trap in, I think, unintended ways. Her new reverse fan move is really strong. I didn't think it would hit you the way it does. Like, you need to duck it. It's not just something that anti-airs. If you are standing, you will get hit. So it's pretty oppressive, and it delays on screen a good bit. It almost hits you as soon as you can see it on screen. Just really good buffs to Kitana. I think we'll finally see her for offline pro comp, which is a great thing. Still has the high damage, trap setups, synergy with Jax, all of that. As well as one of the best sweeps in the game and a pretty good mid for the range. Raiden needs a faster mid. I'll put him at the top of B. His new move, great for damage, but two things. His forward 2 being 18 frames is outdated. He just needs a faster mid. If his forward 3-4, it's the second hit overhead string, has a jab punishable gap in it. A lot of characters are just even forward 2 up. He's not bad per se. It's just he still hasn't found a true identity. So make forward 2 faster, make it like 15 frames or 14 frames. And then second, his new move is feeling underwhelming right now because there are guaranteed ways to set up the new move with like cameos such as Janet. And it does great damage when you land it. The issue I have is it shouldn't go away when you get hit. But at the moment, what it causes is people to just start mashing down one on you. And you could get your openings if your mid wasn't 18 frames. Maybe do one or the other, make his mid faster, because he can't stop somebody from taking away the buff if he can't check anybody just mashing on him. Now Conan, and this is gonna shock some people because I've been saying it, he's one of the most fun characters to play in Mortal Kombat 1. I've been having a blast just using him all the time. He's a casual destroyer and he can win certain matchups, but for offline or just pro level play, his weaknesses are pretty glaring. He kind of has the Geras problem, but even worse, he doesn't have a fast startup mid, so he can't stop anybody from mashing on him. On top of that, unlike Scorpion's 2-1, which is similar range, it's high mid, Conan's is high, so Duck OS at a competitive level, just so much better. He can't use that string. His command grabs, he has no way to really mix them up in any meaningful way that isn't reactable to good players. And then his parry, I think, is nice. And don't get me wrong, his cancels can be nice, but there are better cancels in the game, like Ermax that you could pick. His parry in an offline setting gonna be way more reactable to not do anything than full combo punish. On top of everything I've said, that 2-2 restand doesn't give him a true vortex mix like it does to somebody like Scorpion after stand 3-3 or Ghostface, because you can armor before he can use a Pharah cameo move. He's great in the mid to casual ranks, and there is even some matchups where having that forward to mid is nice, but as soon as you get to high level play, all his weaknesses get truly exposed, and you should just pick other characters if you want certain parts of his game plan. Don't buff him though. He's incredibly fun, and I'm loving playing Conan. So yeah, that's my tier list. Let me know what you think. I think most of the cast is pretty good at this point, and I'll catch you guys next time.